The day my best friend said I didn't look like myself anymore, I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I didn't know how else to respond. We were standing in my kitchen, the same kitchen I had cooked in for years, the same kitchen where nothing ever really changed. She was holding a cup of tea. I remember because her hands were shaking slightly. Mine were not. She looked at me for a long moment before she spoke, longer than people usually do when they are afraid of hurting you. Then she said it. "You don't look like you anymore." Her voice was soft, careful, like she was testing thin ice. I smiled and shrugged. "I'm just tired," I said. But when I turned away, my smile disappeared, because somewhere deep inside me, a quiet thought answered her. I know. That night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror longer than usual. The light was too bright, too honest. My face looked familiar, but distant, like something I had seen before but could not fully remember. My eyes looked dull, not sad, just empty. I touched my cheek and wondered when that had happened. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I simply stood there and realized something strange. I had been disappearing slowly, and I hadn't even noticed. The life before. I met my husband when I was young enough to believe love could protect you from everything. He was kind in a quiet way, not loud, not dramatic. He listened when I spoke. At least, he did in the beginning. We built a life that looked peaceful from the outside. A small home, regular routines, shared meals. Nothing fancy, nothing broken. I liked that. I liked knowing what my days would look like. I liked the safety of predictability. People often said we were lucky. "You have such a calm marriage," they would say. And I believed them. I worked part-time. He worked full-time. Our lives fit together like that for years. I cooked dinner. He ate quietly. We talked about small things, weather, bills, plans that never went too far into the future. There was no shouting, no big fights, and because of that, I never thought to question anything. When I started feeling tired all the time, I blamed age. When I forgot small things, I blamed stress. When I stopped enjoying things I once loved, I blamed myself. I told myself everyone changes, everyone slows down, everyone loses pieces of themselves. That's what growing older meant, right? The friend who noticed. I had known my best friend for more than 20 years. She had seen me in every version of myself, happy, exhausted, confused, strong. She was the kind of friend who noticed small things, the way you sit, the way you pause before answering, the way your laugh sounds different. She started visiting more often. At first, I thought she just missed me. Then she started asking questions. Are you sleeping okay? Are you eating enough? Do you feel all right lately? I answered honestly, or what I thought was honestly. I'm fine. But she didn't look convinced. One afternoon, she touched my arm gently and said, "You seem far away." I smiled again. I'm just busy. But the truth was, I wasn't busy at all. I was quiet, and there's a difference. The slow change. Things didn't go wrong suddenly. They rarely do. It started with mornings. I would wake up already tired, as if I had run all night instead of slept. My head felt heavy. My thoughts felt slow. I would sit at the table holding my coffee, forgetting to drink it. My husband noticed. "You should take better care of yourself," he said one morning. I nodded. He began handing me small pills. "Just vitamins," he said. "They'll help." I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? He was my husband, my partner, the person who shared my bed. I didn't question it. I swallowed them every night, and slowly I became quieter, not sad, not angry, just less. Less opinion, less energy, less presence. Days blurred together. I stopped calling friends, stopped reading books, stopped noticing time. And the strange thing was, it didn't feel alarming. It felt normal. The distance. My husband seemed calmer during that time, more relaxed. He handled things, decisions, schedules. He would say, "Don't worry about it, I've got it." And I let him, because I was tired, because thinking felt heavy, because letting go felt easier than holding on. My best friend kept watching. I didn't see it then, but she was counting changes. The way I forgot stories we had lived together, the way I stared too long before answering, the way I stopped being curious. One day she asked me quietly, "Are you happy?" I didn't know how to answer, so I said nothing. Rising conflict. Beginning. After that day in the kitchen, my best friend did not stop coming over, but she changed how she watched me. She listened more carefully. She repeated things I had already told her, just to see if I remembered. Sometimes I didn't. At first, I laughed it off. "You're worrying too much," I said. But her eyes stayed serious. One afternoon, she brought old photos with her, pictures of us when we were younger. "Do you remember this day?" she asked. I looked at the photo. I recognized the place, the smiles, but the moment itself felt far away. "I think so," I said slowly. She didn't smile back. That night, I lay in bed and tried to remember details from my own life. Dates, conversations, small moments. They felt like fog. Not gone, just out of reach. I turned toward my husband and watched him sleep. He looked peaceful. I told myself I was overthinking again. The daily routine. My days followed the same pattern. Wake up, clean the house, eat small meals. In the evening, my husband would hand me the pills. "Did you take them?" he asked. "Yes," I said. Sometimes I forgot whether I actually had, but I took them anyway. Afterward, my body would feel heavy. My thoughts slowed even more. I slept deeply, too deeply. In the mornings, I felt like I was waking from someone else's dream. My best friend noticed the pills one day. "What are those?" she asked casually. "Vitamins," I said. She picked up the bottle and turned it around. There was no label. "That's strange," she said. I shrugged. "He knows what he's doing." But that sentence felt strange in my mouth. Small moments of fear. One morning, I couldn't remember what day it was. I stood in the kitchen staring at the calendar, feeling embarrassed. Another time, I left the stove on and didn't realize until my husband turned it off. "You need to be more careful," he said gently. I apologized. Apologizing had become easy. My best friend began calling more often. If I didn't answer, she came by. She asked questions differently now. "What did you do today? What did you eat? Did anything unusual happen?" I answered as best I could, but sometimes I felt like I was guessing. One evening, she held my hands and said quietly, "I'm worried about you." I wanted to comfort her, so I smiled again. "I'm fine," I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. The night that felt wrong. One night I woke up suddenly. The house was dark, too quiet. I realized my husband was not beside me. I heard soft sounds from another room, a low voice. I sat up slowly. My head felt heavy, but something inside me felt alert. I followed the sound carefully. He was on the phone in his office. The door was slightly open. "I can't talk long," he said quietly. "She's sleeping." I stood there frozen. "She doesn't remember much anyway," he continued. My heart started beating faster. "She trusts me." I stepped back before he could see me. I returned to bed and lay there staring at the ceiling. When he came back, he slipped into bed without a word. I pretended to be asleep. That night, sleep did not come easily. The friend speaks up. The next day, my best friend came over again. She looked tired, determined. She closed the door behind her and said, "I need to ask you something serious." I nodded. "Have you noticed your memory getting worse?" I hesitated. "Yes," I admitted quietly. She took a deep breath. "Have you noticed when it started?" I thought for a moment. "After the pills," I said. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said softly, "I don't think those are vitamins." My chest tightened. "What do you mean?" I asked. She looked me straight in the eyes. "I think something is wrong, and I think you're not safe." Fear finally reached me then. Not loud fear, cold fear. The kind that settles in your stomach. A plan begins. That night I didn't take the pills. I told my husband I forgot. He watched me closely. "You need them," he said. "I'll take them tomorrow," I replied. He didn't argue, but I could feel his attention on me. The next morning I felt clearer, still tired, but clearer. I noticed more sounds, more details. I called my best friend and whispered, "You were right." She came over immediately. "We need proof, not guesses, proof." She suggested something that scared me. "Pretend everything is normal," she said. "Watch him." I nodded even though my hands were shaking. That night I pretended to sleep again, and this time I kept my eyes open. The night I stayed awake. That night I lay in bed without moving. I kept my breathing slow and steady, the way it sounded when I was asleep. My eyes stayed closed, but my mind stayed awake. My husband came in just after 10. He placed the glass of water on the table beside the bed. I could hear the pills clink softly against the glass. "You forgot earlier," he whispered. His voice was gentle. I nodded and pretended to swallow them. I had learned how to hide them under my tongue. He watched me closely. "Open your mouth," he said lightly, like a joke. I did. He smiled and kissed my forehead. "Good," he said. "Get some rest." The door closed behind him. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. When I was alone, I slipped the pills out and wrapped them in tissue. I did not sleep. Waiting in the dark. Time moved slowly that night. Every sound felt louder, every shadow felt heavier. After a while, I heard his footsteps again. He stood in the doorway, watching me. I stayed still. He leaned closer, checking my breathing. Then he stepped back. A few minutes later, I heard the office door open. I waited. Then I heard voices. Not loud, not clear, but more than one. My body went cold. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I just listened. The sounds stopped after some time. I don't know how long. Eventually, he returned to bed like nothing had happened. I stared at the ceiling until morning. The pills are tested. The next day, my best friend came over early. I handed her the tissue. "These," I said. She didn't ask questions. She took them carefully, like they were fragile. "I know someone," she said. "They can test them." Those hours felt endless. I stayed at her house, sitting quietly on the couch. I felt exposed, like my life had cracked open. When she finally came back, her face told me everything. She sat beside me and took my hands. "They're not vitamins," she said. My throat closed. "There's something in them," she continued, "something that makes you drowsy, confused, easy to control." I didn't cry. I felt numb. All the missing pieces came together at once. The memory gaps, the exhaustion, the bruises, the fear. It wasn't me. I wasn't losing my mind. Seeing him clearly. That evening, I went home. My husband smiled when he saw me. "Did you rest today?" he asked. "Yes," I said calmly. I watched him carefully now. The way he studied my face. The way his smile appeared and disappeared too quickly. That night, when he brought the pills, I felt something new. Not fear, clarity. "I don't want them anymore," I said quietly. His hand froze. "What do you mean?" he asked. "I don't like how they make me feel." His voice stayed calm, but his eyes changed. "You need them," he said again. "No," I replied. Silence filled the room. Then he smiled. "We'll talk about it tomorrow," he said. But I knew there was no tomorrow left like before. The decision. That night, I packed a small bag, just clothes, documents, the things that mattered. I waited until he fell asleep. Then I left. I didn't leave a note. I didn't look back. I went straight to my best friend's house. When she opened the door and saw me standing there, she pulled me into her arms. "I knew," she whispered. I shook as the fear finally released. Aftermath. The days that followed were heavy but clear. I spoke to a doctor, then the authorities. I told my story slowly. I showed them the pills. I wasn't alone anymore. That made all the difference. My husband tried to call. I didn't answer. I had heard enough lies. Seeing myself again. Weeks passed, then months. I started to feel like myself again. Not the same as before, but real. My best friend visited one afternoon and smiled at me. "There you are," she said softly. I looked in the mirror later that day. For the first time in a long while, I recognized the woman staring back. Tired, changed, but still me. This was the moment everything shifted. The truth came out quietly, but it changed everything. If you want, I can now write Part 4, Resolution and Healing, create a powerful ending plus life lesson, turn this into a full YouTube narration script, or generate titles, description, and thumbnail prompts. Just tell me what you want next. Learning how to breathe again. The first few weeks felt strange. I was safe, but my body did not know that yet. I still woke up suddenly at night, my heart racing for no clear reason. Sometimes I reached for pills that were no longer there. Sometimes I waited for footsteps that never came. My best friend gave me space. She never pushed me to talk. She would sit nearby, folding laundry, making tea, humming softly. Her quiet presence reminded me that I was not alone. Slowly, my breathing began to change. I started to sleep again. Telling my story out loud. One afternoon, she asked gently, "Do you want to talk today?" I nodded. The words came slowly. I told her everything I could remember. The confusion, the fear, the way I doubted myself more than I doubted him. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said something I will never forget. "You survived something that tried to erase you." I cried then. Not loud, not broken, just quiet tears. The doctor's office smelled clean and calm. I sat on the edge of the chair, my hands folded tightly in my lap. The doctor spoke softly. She explained what those pills could do over time. "You were not weak," she said. "Your body was reacting to something harmful." Hearing that felt like someone lifting a heavy weight off my chest. For so long, I thought I was failing. I wasn't. I was being harmed. Small steps back to life. Healing did not happen all at once. It came in small moments. Making breakfast again, walking outside alone, choosing what I wanted to wear. Each choice felt new. Sometimes I would stand in the kitchen and forget why I was there, but then I would remember, and that felt like a victory. I started writing things down, little notes, little reminders, not because I was broken, but because I was learning again. The mirror moment. One morning, I stood in front of the mirror. I really looked at myself. The woman looking back had softer eyes now. Still tired, still healing, but there was something else. Awareness. I touched my face gently, like I was meeting myself for the first time. "I see you," I whispered, and for the first time in a long while, I meant it. When he tried to come back, months later, he sent a message. It was short. "I miss you." I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel love. I felt distance. That surprised me. I did not reply. Silence was my answer. Rebuilding trust. Trust did not return easily. Even with kind people, I stayed careful. Loud voices made me tense. Sudden movements startled me. But my best friend stayed patient. "So did I," she said once, smiling gently. We laughed quietly together. That laughter felt like sunlight. Finding joy again. One afternoon, we sat on the porch as the rain began to fall. The sound was soft and steady. I closed my eyes and listened. I realized something then. I was not waiting anymore. Not for fear, not for control. I was just living. That realization brought peace. What I learned that love does not